Thank you, Paul. And this has been quite a day. I got up at about 4:15 this morning. I went on an early morning TV program. It must be the election season. Anyway, then I went to Twin Falls. Opened up a new business there for 1,000 jobs by the first of the year, and maybe even 1,200 by earlier that spring. And then I flew to Caldwell and drove out to Parma and opened up another grand opening for a $30 million project which will make Parma, Idaho the seed capital of the world. And I'm not just talking about production, because we've always known that Canyon and Payette County, because of their climate and because of the type of climate they have, was always the ideal place. But I would also tell you it is now going to be the technology of new seed capital of the world because of the undertakings that they're going to have out there. So it's appropriate that between the celebration that we're going to have a little later and the announcement that we have now, that's how I close out my day. Because we've been talking about yesterday, and now we're looking forward into the exciting opportunities that we have for tomorrow. You know, in my business history, I would tell you I dealt a lot with energy, the cost of energy, the availability of energy. Because in every component, Idaho is what we call a merchant plant state. Almost everything we produce is shipped someplace else, or at least a portion of that. Everything we produce on the farm is shipped someplace else, because we just can't eat it all. And so we process that. We add value, we make it marketable, we make it portable, we make it storable, and obviously we make it consumable. And when I think back to my old job at Simplot, which was on cost studies, and I remember that it took 27,000 BTUs to make 1 pound of French fries. And if that cost went up too much, then our competitive ability in the world went down. So when I first became governor and assigned Paul the responsibility of the new Office of Energy, which was a standalone agency answering directly to the governor, it was a recognition that I don't care whether it's French fries or computer chips or lumber or minerals or new technology, whether it's the storage of that intelligence that we have and the information that we need in order to do our jobs, it takes energy. And as we began talking about it, I said, you know, Paul, the lowest hanging fruit in the energy orchard is conservation. That if you don't use it, then you don't have to produce it. Or if you can use less, you lower your cost and your unit cost of production. And Paul undertook that job, and I just want to say tonight that I think Paul has done a tremendous job, not only for the state of Idaho, and our energy needs and the planning in the future and where we're going, and where we have the capacity to go. But also, I want you to know that Paul has reached a national recognition. It wasn't too long ago when we got a little stimulus money for energy use and energy conservation that Kathleen Zoe, the Undersecretary for the Department of Energy, called, and she said, you folks are doing such a great job. One instance, Homedale, Idaho. Homedale, Idaho has a high school that obviously wasn't as energy efficient as it could have been. Paul went out there with his crew and invested about $19,000. They're now saving over $20,000 a year on energy consumption. And so that's the kind of return on investment I like to see. And so, Paul, congratulations on that national recognition, because he's now formulated the plan, which they are now using through that department in order to get the most bounce out of those stimulus bucks on energy conservation. I would also tell you that the CAES, the Center for Advanced Energy Study, has just been a tremendous find for us. I know, you know, we had a lot of debates in the last legislative session and the one before, on where, with a little bit of investment, where we could get the greatest return. And we went out with a challenge to CAES last year, and we said, you know, what kind of a return can you get us? We'll get you 7 or 8 to 1. And so we made an investment, and we ended up, Harold, I think, with about 15 to 1. I got some more for you right now, because it has been great. But that brings us to this moment now where we understand that the production of energy is important. The availability, the transportation, the transmission, and the use are all important. But so is the efficiency. So is our ability to conserve. And so it gives me a great honor to read for you the proclamation or the agreement that we're all about to sign. Whereas the state of Idaho has demonstrated its commitment to provide a comprehensive and clear approach to Idaho's energy future, and whereas the Center for Advanced Energy Studies is a public-private partnership comprised of Boise State University, University of Idaho, and Idaho State University, private industry, and the Idaho National Laboratory. And whereas the Center for Advanced Energy Studies integrates resources, capabilities, and expertise to create new research capabilities, expand researcher collaborations, and enhance energy-related educational opportunities. And whereas the Center for Advanced Energy Studies, newly formed Energy Efficiency Research Institute, will be a core element to accumulate collaboration, leverage resources, and maximize capabilities across the member institutions. Whereas the Energy Efficient Research Institute will focus on science, implementation, policy at the intersection of energy and generation and utilization, sustainability, environmental science, design, measurement, and materials. And whereas the Energy Efficiency Research Institute will be a leading and recognized interdisciplinary entity that will enhance the Center for Advanced Energy Studies, delivery of innovative, cost-effective, and relevant energy research leading to a sustainable, technologically based economic development and industrial competitiveness. Now, therefore, I and the parties who will sign that below proclaim support for this Center for Advanced Energy Studies Energy Efficiency Research Institute in Boise, Idaho.